guess we're about 2 minutes till 8, close enough. Good morning, everyone. Glad to see all of you here this morning. We'd like to welcome Kate Fletcher, our new county manager.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. This sounds like it's going to be a really good thing.
So we'll start out, usually we start out giving a brief report, going over a few things, and as we speak, and at the end, feel free to jump in and give us your feedback. We love your ideas, your concerns are very helpful to us, so it's kind of an open forum. So I passed out a couple of things this morning, and each time that we've had a coffee, there's a lot of talk and discussion about taxes, and same in the public. You know, everybody's like, I pay my taxes, and sometimes we don't feel like we get much for our taxes. So I thought it'd be good if we explain a little bit. And actually, I was going to go over property taxes this morning, and I got to work at 5 o'clock this morning. I had no phone, no internet. They changed our wireless router yesterday, and somehow they didn't have me on it. So I was like, okay, let's change a plan. So I thought we'd do gross receipts this morning because I already had that information ready to go. So I think I've mentioned the last couple of times that the City of Grants, most of our income comes from gross receipts tax. Property tax, primarily, we get a little bit. Out of about 27 million income, only 400 to 500,000 of our income comes from property tax. So the schools and the county get a much bigger portion of the property tax. So hopefully by next coffee I'll have some information for you, because we've kind of talked about, we want to know, is our property tax high compared to other areas? And some people have said it is. I think you'll be surprised. I was looking at some data, and we are not high compared to a lot of places, but it's good to compare. So for gross receipts tax, if you look at our gross receipts tax compared to those across New Mexico, ours is about in the middle. There are many communities that have a higher tax rate, and then there are some that have a little bit lower tax rate than us. So we fall, when I've compared it in the past, we're about in the middle of the road for New Mexico, for our state. And so the first sheet you have is, it looks like an Excel spreadsheet with lines. This one shows all the tax enactments that we have. And actually, I think this one, as I'm looking at it, I think we're missing the most recent. We had a 1/4% tax increase about a year ago that was for EMS, basically, emergency services. And that tax is anticipated to raise about $800,000 a year. So typically the city, the county, and the village have chipped in to pay for our emergency response system. It's our 911. So when you call 911, we have a dispatch program that is a joint powers agreement between all of the entities. We share in the cost of that service to have staff there that answer the phones and dispatch the units, fire, police out, the ambulance out for services. That typically costs the city about $300,000 a year. The county was typically chipping in about $300,000 a year. So with the new EMS tax that just went into effect, that will cover that. And I just talked to our fire chief last week. So far, the money that's come in is covering the cost of all of that. We're about $26,000 in the positive right now as of, I believe he said March. So these are the various tax enactments. To the side on the left, I figured two that might be interesting to you. The municipal gross receipts for construction, repair, and maintenance of streets was a tax we enacted in 2009. That tax brings in about $600,000 a year. And so to give you a little perspective, when we took out the sewer, or actually it was the water lines on Truman Street, to repair that street after we repaired the water line. It's a small little block of about 10 houses. That street cost about $90,000 to pave. And that was no sidewalk, gutter, or anything else. So paving is very expensive. It's estimated that paving is about $1 million per mile. So $600,000 does not go real far. But besides our taxes that we receive, we also apply for money from the state for various things, and definitely for roads. And so most of the roads on the main arteries, like First and Second, those projects have been, we've had to have a match, but most of that funding has come from the Department of Transportation and the state level. It's not out of our taxes. So right now, if you'll see at the bottom, so for the City of Grants, the tax rate is 8.125, and out of that 8.125, the state gets 5.125. So we really get a very small percentage, so the rest goes to the state, and then it shows the county's part. The county has 1.1875% of that. And then I gave you another handout, and this is kind of the history of our gross receipts tax over a long period of time. And if you'll kind of look at the history, our gross receipts tax has stayed fairly stable. In FY, fiscal year 2015-16, if you'll notice, in the month of August, we had a big tax increase. It was actually about $500,000. It shows that we brought in August of that year, $1,068,007. So, but then this last year, we've talked to you all, we got a pullback of about $730,000. We think that somebody calculated their tax right. Some business corporation in our area that pays gross receipts tax must have calculated incorrectly, and then they amended their tax return. So at the end of this last fiscal year in June, you'll see I put them in yellow where we've had pullbacks. We actually had about a $730,000 pullback. So as a community, we've been trying to work with our budgets with that because we didn't anticipate that pullback. Gross receipts tax information is confidential at the state level. I, as a manager, can go through a training and sign a confidential waiver and go look at the records, but once I look at the records to see why we had a pullback, I can't share that information with anybody else within my entity because it's supposed to be confidential. So, are there any questions? I just kind of wanted to give you a little feel. When you look at this, if we bring in, let's say if you look at last year, fiscal year 2016-17, by the end of the year we brought in $6,149,173. So our personnel budget is actually about 6.5. So that takes up a lot of that. Now, gross receipts is not the only income we take in. We have income from our water, trash, refuse. We make a little bit of profit on those items because we charge a little bit more than what we're charged. And then we also take in, we sell business licenses, cemetery plots, things like that. We get grant funding, various things, but basically our gross receipts, which is our biggest revenue source, is about $6 million, and our personnel is about 6.5. So personnel, it takes up a lot. Now the city has 20 departments. So we have our senior center, our police, our fire. The police department's budget is about $1.5 million of our total budget. Fire is about $500,000. We have the library, recreation, the water department. So we have 20 various departments that we have personnel. And one thing we've been working on in the last couple of years is to really look at Are we overstaffed? We know our wages are very low compared to the industry, even within our own community. Our community is low compared to other communities across the nation and the state, but we look at how do we compare even locally, and our wages are pretty low compared to our neighboring businesses in the community. And then we also are looking at, but can we save money by not filling positions that may not be needed? Are we really maximizing our staff? And so that's something I've asked all of our departments to really look at. Do you really need the number of staff that you have? Because personnel is a large line item in our budget. Are there any questions on gross receipts? Yes, Mr. Pike?
What was the drop? 2016, 2017 was lower than the previous 4 fiscal years, and I'm just curious why it dropped that much.
2016, because the 2016 was lower than the year before because we had that up in August, 500,000 probably, that we weren't sure why we had that, but now we have a pullback the next year. I'm guessing somebody did their tax return wrong and then amended it now in the next year. So we saw the decrease the next year. That's what we're guessing. Yes.
Do you have any idea how much of a delay it is? So, for example, like Love's being out of commission right now, and because that's probably got to be a loss too, right?
Right, and Love's is in Milan, so Love's will not affect our gross receipt. It'll affect Milan.
So this is only city.
This is only city. Yes.
So, but what does have a big impact is the private prisons, because our private prisons generate income, and when their numbers are up or down, or they close, or they lose people, every day that they charge for a bed, we get a gross receipts off that, so that's a pretty good charge.
And I think the county of Milan, when the Milan prison shut down for a while, I think, that was a big worry to them, that was going to get up and running again. Any other questions?
Yeah, this is sort of a point of humor. I remember back in the 50s, gives you an idea of my age. Back in California, I was brought up in Northern California, and back in the 50s, the freeways were being built. And the cost of freeways back then was $1 million a mile.
Back in the 50s?
Back in the 50s, so obviously countrywide, it's probably cities to do a block.
Yeah.
It's very different now.
Yeah, yes. Okay, I'm going to move on to a couple of other things, and if you have some other thoughts about this, we can always bring it back up. We've been really looking over the last few years at speed humps and how effective they are. Our Planning and Zoning Commission approves speed humps, and before I became city manager, I heard lots of complaints about speed humps in town, and I personally don't like them. I heard many complaints, but when I became city manager, I was amazed at how many neighborhoods request to have a speed hump. And so I don't know about previously, but any new speed humps, to my knowledge, have become requests from neighborhoods. It's not that the city goes, oh, let's put a speed hump there. That's what I assumed previously, but I know we do have a process. A certain percentage of that neighborhood has to be in favor, goes before planning and zoning to get approved. We have an individual on our planning and zoning. The Planning and Zoning Commission as a whole does not like speed humps, and so they've been working together to research and try to find out, are there other options? How can we make ours more user-friendly, basically? So we're trying a couple of different things. One of the issues we've had is getting the paint that we buy to adhere and stay, because within a week or so, you really can't see the yellow markings to warn you that there's a speed hump. So they've been playing with various types of paint. Of course, some are more expensive than others. The other thing is we've gotten a few samples of pre-made speed humps. And so they're rubber speed humps, and they cost about, to do a regular street, I would say $300, because Is that about right, Les? 150 for one component, and then you have to have one for the other side. So about $300 per road, and you bolt them down. They're not very high, so they do encourage you to slow down, but they're not as obtrusive. We're also trying to figure out if there's a way, I think somebody talked about it here at the coffee too, that we need gaps in them, especially for EMS vehicles to drive through so that they're not impacted by a speed hump. So we are trying a couple of different things. You may start seeing, we're looking at buying a few of the pre-made ones that are rubber to put out and try those and see how those work. I know the crew went a couple of months ago and they worked with Les to get the DOT specifications to make them as wide as the DOT recommends and at the height they recommend, so that we would have them more uniform instead of just, oh, that looks good and we'll kind of put it out there and they're all different. So we are working to try to uniform them and make them a little bit more user-friendly. I had encouraged us to look at what I call rumble strips, which are raised bumps in the road, basically, that as you go over them they make a sound, and it just kind of warns you, oh yeah, I'm in a school zone, I'm in an area that there's children, or an area that we should slow down. So we are trying to fix that.
That was one of the things I wanted to ask this morning. How about if we send our crews over to Albuquerque so they can learn how to make them over there? Every street in Albuquerque that has a speed hump, you can go over that speed hump at the speed limit for that street, rather than having to slow down at all. I mean, you go off of San Mateo, all the streets going east off of San Mateo around the Manal area, have them in there, and you just, you know, they keep you at the speed limit. You go over the speed limit, you know, they're gonna cause damage. They're not as high as what these are. And if we're talking to the portable ones, I hope they're not the same ones we got in Skyline Housing, because those in Skyline Housing, you have to stop before you can go over them. So I don't know
Where's
if they're
Skyline Housing?
up in Acton.
Okay.
They've got the rubber ones up there, and they're.
Do they? Yeah. Yeah, we definitely can check and see what other communities have, like Albuquerque. I'm guessing they get their regulations or their guidelines from DOT. So we have worked with the DOT to try to see what those, you know, how wide should it be, how high, but it is something we need to make where it's a little bit more friendly. So I'll recommend that Albuquerque might be a place.
Yeah, and in addition, I remember talking to somebody who mentioned that the actual intention that speed bumps are supposed to have is to slow you down to the speed limit. Well, there are plenty of speed bumps in Grants that if you go more than 5 miles an hour, you know, you're in a club.
Right.
Which means, yeah, it might be looking more at what Albuquerque is doing, if there are any guidelines from the state, and not just putting them in.
Right.
But putting them in properly, or putting the proper ones in so that they do slow you down to the speed limit, but not 5 miles an hour or 10 miles an hour.
Yeah, and that's probably a lot of it, you know, the misunderstanding that it really should just get you to the regular speed limit. Yeah, that's probably
The
true.
one that I think is humorous, if you've ever been out there, is in Mount Taylor Edition. It's on Teresa Street, and the sign that says speed hump also has the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit sign. If you hit that speed hump at 25 miles an hour, you might as well go buy a new car.
Yeah.
Because this is one of the worst ones in town.
Yeah, I haven't recognized that one, I guess. Yes.
So you say you want to uniform all of the speed humps to the DOT regulations. Do you have any idea how much that's going to cost?
It shouldn't cost a lot. Basically, you rip out the area that you have the speed hump, if there's already one there, and then just reform it in. We can reheat the asphalt and reuse that for millings. Yeah. Edward, were you going to say something about Teresa Street?
Yes, that is actually in the county.
So the city didn't put that speed hump.
Oh.
Guess that's mine.
But it is humorous, you know,
Yeah.
see that 25-mile-an-hour speed limit sign with that hump.
Yeah. I forget, we do the water and sewer for Mount Taylor Edition, but the roads are the county. Yeah, okay, sounds good.
I'll own it.
So the city's working on our lift stations. Our lift stations are 25 years old or older, and we have a few that are in critical condition. So Les, as the assistant city manager, is working with CH2M, who's here today. Thank you for coming. To look at what we need to do. We've got one that the walls are starting to cave in and it's getting gravel in the pump and stuff. So that's probably going to be a big expense we anticipate coming up in the next month or so. Probably, I don't want to say next few months, but it's pretty critical. We might need to move quickly.
You know, you might remind the public also that we pump about 1.2 million gallons of sewage a day. So, that's a lot of wear and tear on any piece of equipment when you're moving that much volume of material. And then we don't really have a significant method of screening the material. So any little pheasant that comes down the sewage system goes through those pumps and through a grinder and through those pumps up to this sewage treatment facility. And we are really excited about the new plant coming online. I think it'll change the whole texture of our whole town and the smell of our town because it is a nice facility. It's going to be good. So we are trying to upgrade that.
So while Les mentioned our new sewer plant, one thing we're going to be trying to do a lot of education with the public and with our restaurants is that this new sewer plant is not going to be oil friendly, grease and oil. And so as homeowners, we need to make sure the public knows you should not be pouring oil down your sink, that you should have a container to keep it separate. And for our restaurants and our prisons, the jails, all of that need to make sure that they have some kind of way of separating out the oils, because the plant we have now can handle it. The new plant will not handle it well. And so our code enforcement, Mr. Windhorse and Edward and Les and our projects individuals have been going out and talking to the businesses so far about how they're dealing with grease, and so that we can educate everybody and take care of our new plant. Yes?
When I was in college, many years ago, I had a community health class, and we had a tour of a treatment plant, and boy, that stuck with me. So I don't know if we can offer tours or if that's available, but it might be a way to educate people about it.
True.
Where is it located?
It's back here behind the golf course is where the new plant is, and that's where the old one was as well. Yes. Let's see.
So will that drastically change the smell? Because I know driving around this area with this current sewer plant, it stinks sometimes. It's horrible.
Well, right now it's especially been bad because they're under construction and they've changed a few things over there. We had to get rid of one of the ponds and move stuff to the other, and that stirred up the mix of stuff. So yes, it should. We visited a plant that's similar to this new one in Bernalillo, and it's right next to a mobile home park, and we couldn't smell any foul odors.
Good.
Right
That's
there
good.
at it. So yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we're looking for it to improve. We put out a new RFP for ambulance service. The current ambulance is reformed to another company, and legally we couldn't just say we're going to do business with you, so we've put out an RFP. We were looking at doing the ambulance service ourselves, but looking at all the aspects, we're nowhere ready. There's a lot entailed to be able to bill insurance, Medicaid, Medicare, and then plus we would have additional staff that we would have to figure out bunking areas for females and males, and so we went ahead and put it back out for RFP. We're hoping we get some good interest, not only from the local pass provider, but possibly some others that are nearby to take that service on. I kind of wanted to get a little feedback from you all. We've had a recent request. We know that it's been hard economic times, and we know that our county has struggled with finances just as many of us have. And recently the county sheriff and the county commission board chair came before the city council on Monday night and asked the city to contribute $150,000 to help the sheriff's department make it through the end of the fiscal year, so basically for 3 months. And I'm kind of wondering what citizens for the city of Grants think about that. I know Mr. Crow wrote a letter to the editor concerned about the Native American baskets that Sacred Wind was doing. So, and I want to make sure everybody knows Sacred Wind is funding that total project. They're asking to place those, they're big satellite dishes that they're going to either paint or wrap to make look like Native American pottery baskets. And they're going to tie them in with various tribes in our area and various cultures. And they will also have a component with historical information about them. And it's thought that they will have an aesthetic value along our roads, and that they will be an attraction that people will stop to look at and take pictures of and various things. But the City of Grants is a wonderful project. We are not funding the project. It was not our idea. It was Sacred Wind's idea, and they have partnered with the Arts Council. But a citizen came forward concerned that our tax dollars are going to pay that. And so the message that I keep getting over and over, that I understand and I hear, and I'm trying to make sure our council understands, is that our citizens want us to focus on roads, sewer, water lines, our infrastructure. Of course, public safety is important too, but the things we're really struggling with are roads and our infrastructure. And so our citizens, from what I hear, want us to focus on that. So what's your thoughts on the city, if we even have the money, which we don't, we don't, but if we did, what's your thoughts on that? Because this is the first time such a request has ever came forth. Yes.
On what? On the sheriff's, or? I remember I was at the meeting, what was it, a week ago now, about Thursday, the county meeting. And Tony Mace got up and he was asking the county to be able to provide his department, I don't know how much extra, maybe it was 100,000, I'm not sure. And we're in a situation where the county has to really watch what it's doing. I'm rather surprised that he went to the city. I'm wondering if the county said, okay, Tony, go to the city and see if he, or if he did it just off by himself. It seems inappropriate to me.
May I answer that?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
About 2.5 years ago, Mayor Hicks came before the Cibola County Commissioners and asked for $150,000 for the golf course, and to help with the expense of the golf course. And that's where that came from. That's where that idea came from.
Did we help?
Oh yes, the county did give the city $150,000 at that time.
So the thought on that is we have a lot of joint powers agreements where each contributes. Say the Senior Citizen Center, the City of Grants foots the bill for the Senior Citizen Center. The county and the village give a little bit of money because we serve the whole county. Same with the animal shelter. We serve the whole county. So the golf course, the county has never contributed to the golf course, and neither has Milan. So the thought was, it wasn't that we needed the money or didn't have the money, it was that you should be helping with the operation of the golf course because we serve the entire county. Yes?
So, if that was the thought process for the county giving the city money, then shouldn't this be the time that the city gives the county money to help out? I mean, especially, it's for the sheriffs. It's a very vital service to the entire community, the whole county. I mean, this golf course is just a small part of the county. Cibola County is massive. We need the sheriffs.
I was at the city meeting, council meeting, not the county meeting last week, but, so I heard Sheriff Mace, And yesterday, in this, well, it was from a family member of a deputy, she said that they're talking about layoffs. And I said, really? I didn't hear that at the meeting. And also about how they can't get paid their overtime, they have to take their comp. This was a spouse. So I didn't know, was that critical? This is what they're saying in the community.
I would love to address that, but I thought maybe we could wait for Laura to have all her
Okay,
time, so,
okay.
and then we can talk about that. And
You didn't say that at the city meeting, did you?
No, but I understand that might be a possibility, because I think as of April, they may be done with all of their funds, so that might be a possibility. Yes, Mr. Pike?
When the sheriff responds to the city calls, is there any compensation back on that, or? 'Cause I know one night being an amateur radio operator, I also, on scanner from time to time, and we actually had a situation in our neighborhood where it sounded like 6 shots were fired, and within minutes, we had probably just about every Grants police officer there, and then they had a domestic call in another part of the city, and they had to send the county to do that. So is there any, we pay for those services, or?
No, no, each department has their own funding, as well as state police covers. So the city can really only cover the city limits, but county can cover all of Cibola County, and so can the state police by jurisdiction. Yes.
Has the Sheriff's Department approached the other municipalities?
Not that I know of. I'm not, certain on that, but that was the question our police department was asking as well. Because we have Acoma, Laguna, Pine Hill, Rama, quite a few.
They'll all be affected.
Right.
I can add a little bit to that. They do receive additional fundings from the Forest Service, a little pittance of an amount, because they are the first responders for the Forest Service area, and they used to receive a little bit, I believe, from the
yes,
Park Service.
Forest Patrol.
It's just a little,
Yes.
it's not enough to really do anything.
It's
But
not
they
enough,
do- They
yeah.
are a primary responder if our guys need backup.
Okay. Yes.
You know what, I live in the county, and so I can't vote in grants, of course, but it's like, and that always puzzled me, because, I work in grants, I spend my money in grants, and I do care what happens in grants, but I also care about what happens in the county, and so I feel like the partnership really needs to be strong, especially when we're talking about public safety.
Absolutely.
Bob?
I think that certainly the Sheriff's Department needs our support. I know money is really tight, but according to our local newspaper and the Independent, this sheriff and his department personnel are doing an awful lot, particularly in the drug situation, which I think takes a disproportionate amount of their efforts just because that's a huge problem when it's growing. So I would definitely think the city ought to be helped.
Okay. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Kate and see if she'd like to share some updates from the county side.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for inviting me. This sounds really, what a good idea to do this every month. So, can you hear me? Okay. So I want to kind of thank you for the warm welcome. I'm really enjoying learning about grants. I'm learning every minute, not every day, but every minute. There's a new thing coming through my desk, so I'm loving it. I was from Catron County. I've lived in Catron County for 22 years. I brought up 3 children there, and my husband is the sheriff there. So I can actually call it home. I talk funny because I'm originally from London, but I've actually lived in America longer than I have in London, and I'm proud of that. And my children have all been brought up here. They're New Mexicans. Every meal has to have green chili on it. It's just a normal thing. So I just wanted to kind of let you know that I'm just moving up to Cibola. I was there for a long time, 22 years, learned the culture, understood the culture, respected the culture, have a lot of friends, a lot of families, learned how to work with everyone, and I think that's really important. So I'm hoping that Laura and I will be able to do a lot of things together to benefit all. Yes, the county is actually, I'm going to be positive, I'm sorry, but the county is not insolvent. That's one thing. The county did not lose $9 million. The county overspent through years of overspending. So when they asked DFA to help, which is Michael Steininger, who is all over the state, he's great. He's great with numbers. I've worked with him before in the Village of Reserve, and he's given us the numbers. We have real numbers now. And I can honestly tell you that I don't think we've had real numbers to work with for quite a while. Yes, it's tight, but we do have revenue coming in. We can think outside the box. We need to look, we're not going to lay off anybody tomorrow. You know, our job as county employees is to get through this fiscal year, know what we want to do, put a forecast together for 3 years and a 5-year forecast, work with the commission, give the commission good, solid information so they can make educated decisions to move forward. There's nothing malfeasant, there's nothing going on from what I've heard, what I've seen on paper. It's a lot to do with management and a lot to do with tightening up our belts. And every single day I see something that we need to do. So, example, we were talking about taxes. I requested TRT to come in, Tax and Rev, to do a training, and they paid for the training for the assessors. This doesn't mean that the TRD is coming to take over the assessors. Nothing like that. We need to pool those resources to make sure that we are doing everything that we possibly can in the correct way. So we have to help our employees and our assessor to make sure that she and her employees are doing everything and have everything they need to do their job. I have asked TRD for help continually for the next, I'm hoping, a year, to really help our property tax evaluations and our assessments and make sure that we're utilizing all the, we have a software, I don't know whether you've heard of Tyler. It's a software system that we use. It is like it's the Cadillac of softwares. I've always wanted to have Tyler for many years while I was a manager down there, but anyway. So I'm all excited, and I come in here and I know what Tyler can do, and quite frankly, we're not using it to the best ability. So we need to learn, we need to use it. If we've got it and we're paying for it, let's use it. Let's get as much information as possible because it can help us. That's one thing. Because I've been a manager in a county, I've learned government. I've learned the good and the bad. I've learned that, we want to fix it tomorrow, right? We want to fix it right now. We can't. It just doesn't work that way. Government is, well,
Slow.
it's very slow, and it's very frustrating sometimes. But if we, like Laura was saying about staying on track, that is absolutely so important. You put a plan together and we stick to that plan. We need to know where we're going, and that's why I need, right now, information from the public. You guys know this county. You're the ones that understand what you want from the county. I'm going to go back to our budgets, our audits. One of my and the county and the commissions is we have to have a good audit. I had a list yesterday, and I had a list of all the counties and all their audits, and every other county has their audit in, and we do not yet. And every other county is unmodified with a few findings here and there. That's where we need to get to. Unmodified is the best to have as an audit. Right now we're qualified with multiples. That's me talking to our external auditors. I've been begging the state auditor for us to move forward for the next fiscal year, excuse me. And it's kind of, we're in a catch-22. Because our audit is late, they won't allow me as a county to go out to RFP for an auditor for next year. So if I don't get that audit, that process going, we're going to be late again. So we need to stop it. We need to stop this sort of continual repeating of findings that we can fix pretty easily. I mean, if we're going to get a finding for having an audit late, that's an easy fix, right? So I have been allowed now to do the RFP to get a new auditor, and even if we don't have our audit in, but I'm really glad that they said yes. That's very important. If we don't clean our audit up, we won't be able to get grants, assist in projects. Everything is intertwined. Everything, the state always looks at our audit. Every time we ask for money for capital outlay with our legislators, the first question they ask is, how's your audit? And the second question they ask is your request on your ICIP, correct?
Right.
So there's a system that we have to learn to be able to know how to move forward. So I am looking right now, I need community help. I need communities' experience and knowledge. I would like to start a advisory financial committee with people that are, we don't have time to sit and think about what's happened. We don't have time to sit and gripe about everything that's gone wrong. I don't have time for that, but I do want to hear solutions. I do want to hear ideas. I want the community to have something to do with our success in moving forward. You know, it can be done. It's done. I said at the meeting before, it's kind of, I didn't realize that counties can be so alike in so many things. I've been dealing with all the departments, learning about their issues, learning about what they love and they don't love, and what's going on and concerns. And quite frankly, I'm hearing, it's like a flashback from 5 years ago when I started in Katrin as a manager. The same questions, the same concerns, the same mindset in the county. So this is not, this is so doable, but we can't do it all on our own. The county, we have to do this together. I have to grab knowledge and I have to use it. And I have to weed out the things that we can weed out and fix and our findings, and that I can do, but I need to move forward. And the only way I think we're going to do that is to do it together. Work with grants, work with Milan, work with the community. My door's open, and if anybody has any questions, go for it.
Could you respond to the?
Yes,
question
thank you.
about the law enforcement?
It was actually me that started that recommendation, not the 150 requesting for the village. I didn't, no. Once I got the numbers, there was some red flags. There was some light at the end of the tunnel, and I was really, really happy, because I honestly tell you that 2 weeks before, I was hearing from every entity in the state, oh, Kate, Cibola is really bad. Oh, Kate, what, are you sure you want to do this, Kate? You're crazy, Kate. What are you doing, Kate? And I just had this feeling that it's not as bad as everyone is saying. I think it's a panic mode that we've been in because we didn't know. Back to sheriff. We had a head of department meeting this week, and I had all the heads, and I actually gave them their budgets this year. And we went line through line with a highlighter, and we looked at them. And then I asked them, when was the last time they saw their budgets? And there was these blank stares, they hadn't. That is crucial. You know, the sheriff, I'm married to a sheriff. I know the safety, and I know how important it is to be able to go out in that cool at 2 in the morning and say goodbye to your family. I know how scary it is when you're doing, I've lived with it for 22 years. But when we have numbers in front of us, real numbers, and the budgets are not correct in a sense that they haven't been utilized the best way, it looks on paper with the budget figures that every single department has overspent for years. So right now, we should be at 75 spent. We're at the third quarter of the fiscal year. We've got one more quarter left. Common sense, every budget should be 75% or less. We're all at 90 and more. That's why he requested a budget adjustment, and I had to give the commission, I had to give them facts in front of them, for them to make an educated decision. We can't react to everything, because we're not able to do it. It's a bad practice to react to every single problem that comes towards us. We have to have a plan. When the sheriff asked me, I asked him to write it down so the commissioners can see the issues on paper, and he did. And the commissioner saw the letter. When the commission asked me what my recommendation was to do the budget adjustment for that, I said, right now, we don't have anywhere to adjust. We don't have any money to give to him because it's all in our general fund. That doesn't mean we don't have other funds that we can spend, but we can't move those funds for our general fund. General fund is our operating, sheriff, treasurer, assessor, manager, commission, I'm missing one, probate, clerk, roads, which will change. We have to move in. We have to find funds for roads, one of the issues. But those operating, that's our general fund. And that's where we're working on to make sure we've overspent. Yes?
So, partially in summary, are you saying that you got the department heads together? Would this have been in the past week?
Yeah, it was on Tuesday of this week.
Yeah, since the last meeting. Okay. And you presented each of them with their fiscal 18-19,
17-18, yes.
17-18 budget. Okay. Are you also saying that this was not done in the past?
That's what I'm hearing. I'm sure it's done. I'm sure.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure there's managers that have done that. But right now, I think it's been so. Everything has just been so muddled, you know, and we haven't had really a strong guidance, and so that really trickles down to all the departments. So I really feel that they want to know. They're interested. They don't want the county to fail. I mean, look how many families that work for our county. You know, you talk about layoffs. I mean, that is like that just can't happen. And with the tools that I know that we can use, i.e. DFA, i.e. NMAC, all the entities that can help us, I'm going to ask them for our help. That doesn't mean that they're going to take over. The state does not want to take over a county. It costs a fortune. We have elected officials that need to do their jobs, and we have property taxes and assessors to do it. So my job is to clear a path so we all can move forward with what we know of our revenue and expenditures and not overspend.
The hospital was going to give the county a lot of money for their freedom. What's the status of that negotiation?
Okay, so it's fun. I actually asked them for a list of all the properties that the county owns. And Mr. Windhorst, if you want to add anything, go for it, because you are absolutely aware of more than I am. I'm learning on this. We do have properties like that, like like Laura said, we have to procure correctly. We can't just sell it to someone that wants it. We have to do this due process, and we have to go to bid, or we have to go for an RFP, depending on what it is. That is law, those statutes, that's regulations that we have to do every time that we want to sell or purchase. We have to make sure that we give everybody the opportunity, not just one person. So that's one sort of hump that we have to do. Saying that, the commission directed me to put out an RFP for the building next to us, Smith's. So that's the first thing. Let's do one thing at a time. We can't fix it overnight. We're going to fix the RFP to see what we can get from the proposals. We want Smith's. I'm hearing the community likes to have that local grocery store. But our agreement with Smith's is from 1978. 2018. We need to catch up, and we need to ask them what they would like, how what's their proposal? What do they want? What's their expectations? And what are expectations? So we'll sit down and negotiate. But we have to put the RFP out first for everybody everywhere. So we will be working on the hospital, and I have some other properties that I need to look at too. So I just need to figure out one thing at a time.
Oh, with regard to Smith's, just a little tidbit. I remember talking to somebody who worked for Smith's, who mentioned that this store, and there are a number of other ones that are this size in the state, is the smallest of the Smith's stores. If you go to Albuquerque, they're huge. They're like super Walmarts. But this is one of the smaller ones, and the smallest one of their stores they have through New Mexico.
Yes.
Hey, you said about our elected officials doing the job. I knew this a few years back, and it just got enlightened again by a community member. And the elected officials are like the assessor, the treasurer, the clerk, and even the sheriff. They're only obligated to work 8 hours a week. And all of us have to work 40 plus.
I agree.
hours a week.
Yes.
So,
I can explain
it.
that.
Several times I went to go see one of them, and I couldn't find them. So I was just wondering how true that.
It is very true. Unfortunately, it's a statute. Can't change. Yes, Mr. Windhorst.
I just want to say that it is true, and that's a stupid law, and it needs to be changed. It's been around since the early part of the 1900s, when people used to farm and then be an assessor. But it is ridiculous to go over to the county building and see the assessors, the clerks, and the treasurer's office, the main people gone. They should be there. For being paid $68,000 a year, they should be there. The first one in the morning and the last one to leave at night until the work of the people are done. And I will say this about our county sheriff. Very, very diligent, and so is our county clerk. Our county clerk, Michelle Dominguez, I have to say, she is like Lisa Bro. She is there. You can find her. But you'll have a hard time finding the others sometimes. And this is ridiculous, to run for an elected office and not be there to oversee and make sure that everything's running the way that it should. So when people come and ask for money, they need more people to work in their office. I'm thinking to myself, well, just get up in the morning and come to work and be there and take part of that load upon your shoulders, then we will be able to make it. But, and this thing about chief deputies, or whatever they call them, I just find that to be ridiculous. We can hire 2 employees for every chief that we have. And I just don't understand this. I really don't. It's a system that has been corrupt from the very start. And then everybody changes. You know, for 8 years, 2 terms, one will be the assessor, one will be the treasurer. Then they switch it around, and it doesn't benefit us. But we can change that by voting and making that change ourselves and being aware of what's been going on. And I'm sorry, I kind of had a little,
Okay, so I'm going to have a little vent now too now, okay? So, so the commission, their job is to make policy and procedures. They have one big job, is to hire and fire the county manager. And the county manager has to be the liaison between the departments to the commission, and the commission needs to use the county manager as a liaison to the departments. That's how there's systems that do work and there are systems that don't. The elected officials working 8 hours, ridiculous, right?
Yes.
Especially in small towns like this.
Yes.
Because every single person that is being paid by our taxpayer money should be working in their office like everybody else.
Yes.
You know, maybe they want to come. You are absolutely right. it's crazy. It's like it's like they set the counties up to fail sometimes. You say about the elected officials not doing their jobs. There are things I can do if I have direction from the commission. There are things I can actually work with their employees. As an elected official, unfortunately, I can request them to do whatever. I can request them to come in for 8 hours a day. I can ask them nicely if they could park in, not right out in the front of the parking lot and maybe park somewhere. I can ask them to do all those things, but quite frankly, they're an elected official. It's weird. It's just, that's how the system does work if the elected officials work.
How do we change that?
It's statute. Tell your Congress, tell your senators, tell your representatives.
State laws.
State
yeah.
laws. We can't change that here locally, unfortunately. Yes, sir.
A few things. First, if the commission can hire and fire the manager, who hires and fires the department heads?
So the department heads are all elected. The elected assessors. Yes, they're elected by the.
In the
Well,
city,
right now it's about-
city's a little different,
Yeah. And
For county.
is part of the problem with expenses or money right now, the $900,000
$9 million.
relating to the 900,000 relating to the
Yes.
bond
Oh.
for Taj Mahal?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Okay. And third, I'm of the opinion that the solutions to problems, a fundamental part is a clear definition, a clear knowledge of the source of the problem. So in other words, 4 or 5 years ago, what really was going on with the county government that led to all this? You mentioned with respect to the budgets, I suddenly thought, well, maybe some of the departments didn't even know what their budgets were and just spent. So is there overspending with that? Well, once the budget was known, maybe, it's like there's a confusion here that I have.
Oh yes.
About what really happened, and also that apparently either the state did not know or they were unwilling to come in and do something about it.
You're absolutely right with all those questions. I've had those for 2 weeks now. What I'm seeing, and this is just from what I'm seeing from my history and what I'm seeing on a daily basis, there's a lot of things that have accumulated throughout the years, little things that have become big. It's not one huge thing that happened. It's little tiny pieces that just weren't handled and weren't dealt with and weren't addressed when it should have been. So that's where we're at. Yes, sir.
Like a president, I'm a reserve deputy officer, so I'm a little biased.
Good.
If Tony May says they need money, they need money. Believe me, I've seen them when I work down there. Those guys are not sitting around the office talking about things. They're out there in the county, and the county is vast. If you ever saw them working down the Fence Lake, over the depots and all that, they work. So if he needs money, I would suggest you give it to him.
Yeah.
Secondly, I agree with this man. Valerie started a program to educate the commissioners so that they know what they're talking about when they're talking about a budget. I'm of the opinion they had no clue of what they're talking about. They just listen to one person and go along with it. So,
Well, that person that we listen to is the county manager.
Oh, I'm not
Yes.
faulting you, Mark, because I know you're
I'm just saying that's how it works. The county manager is hired to advise us as to what the budget is, and up to this point, we have not had that with the commission. That's been the problem, and that's been going on for the last 5 years, when the county did at one time have reserve money and reserve funds like the city of Grants does now. And because we did not keep our eye on the ball, that's what happened. We did not budget. We did not hold people's hands to the fire. A good department head will always stay within their budget. know exactly where they are. You divide the fiscal year up into 12, and you know exactly where you are, and you should stay within that and never overspend. When you overspend, it hurts everybody. $9.5 million overspending.
I am aware of that, and I understand what you're saying, Robert, but some of the county commissioners have no clue at all what their job is and how to spend money or how it's allocated. Secondly, the division heads, the department heads, they need a little education too, obviously, since they're overspending like it's our money. Or it's your money, we'll spend whatever we need, we don't have to worry about it, we'll get it in the next meeting.
Yeah.
So if
I'm
we
not
can
going to say that ever.
educate them-
And I want to say something, because I absolutely agree with you about the sheriff's office and this, you know, I know that that is so important, that department. It is so important to have the safety of those officers. I know what they do on their own at night. I know what goes on and how they need to feel that they have everything they need to stay safe and to let everybody else be safe. But I can't pull money out of things that we don't have right now. We have 3 months to try to figure out, work together. I had this meeting, I said, we have 3 months to get through this fiscal year. I need ideas, solutions. I need people. I had the road department call me up and say, Kate, I've looked at our budget now, thank you. I've just cut it by 10,000. Okay. So these are the things that we need to get through this 3 months. We're doing more quotes. We're putting a procurement, stricter procurement, so everybody needs to get the cheapest deal. They don't go to the easiest person because he's just around the corner. We need to make sure that we are using our purchasing the right way. And to do that, we need to get quotes and get the cheapest possible quote and go with it. I don't know where, we don't have the 150,000. I can't take it out of DWI funds. I can't take it out of the fire funds. Those are all different fund balances. I'm not allowed to. It has to come out of general fund, and we don't have it.
So, and I was remembering from the meeting when Michael Steiniger got up.
Yes.
And I would like clarification on what I was hearing. Because he was mentioning, without saying which department it was, I think, he might have mentioned the department, and how they were overspending. And that it seemed that if that continued for the next 2 months, by the time we reach June, the county would be insolvent. Now, is that true? The best you know?
Okay, so Mr. Michael and I, we're friends. He's a numbers guy, and I like him and I trust him, and he's done a great job for the county. He's done a superb job getting the real numbers, and I'm confident they are real. But his job also is to, that's what he does. He gets, DFA sends him to all the counties that need help. We have the experience, we have the knowledge, we have the documents, we have the paper now, we can do this. We don't need, we're ready. I'm ready. Are you ready, Mr. Windhorst?
I am.
So,
Right.
yes, he's saying that because it's a numbers guy, but once I start
yes.
cutting and finding out that we haven't billed quite a few things, correct, Laura? I'm finding money.
Right.
I mean, we're finding money to get through these 3 months. We have good revenue. We can make more revenue. We can actually help, if I can get the audit cleaned, which is really important, we can turn this around very, very quickly. And I think, and I'm going to say this out, and I shouldn't say it out loud, but I think it's going to take about 2 years to 3 years to get it done. That's not that long if we can keep moving. Yes?
Okay, let me make you aware of something. You may already
Please.
be aware of this.
Probably not.
The former manager, I don't think moved on this very much, but the owner of the greenhouse owes the county $250,000 that was due October, November time period. They came back and said they want to pay that. It was a matter of incorporation documents, things they were going through, and they would pay that money to the county by February. That's some low-hanging fruit there that's owed to you. The man says he wants to pay it. That's $250,000 that might get you by.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you. These are the things I'm finding out on an hourly basis.
Right. I think you could go after that money tomorrow.
I will look and
You
see.
promise to pay it by February.
I will definitely look and see,
Either that
thank
or
you.
You're gonna own the greenhouse.
Yeah, and 150,000 that the sheriff has requested is still not gonna get him through to,
They owe you 250,000 payment right now.
yep, I will look into it, everything.
Would it be more beneficial financially for the county if it didn't have the county building situation, if the state took over the county building and sold it and the county went back to the old offices on High Street?
That's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
And we've made a big mistake buying that shopping center years ago, and many of the citizens of this county asked the commissioners not to buy that building, and they did it anyway. And then they got the money together in the form of bonds, and that's part of the problem that we're having now, because we're having to pay $900,000 a year
Yeah.
for the paying off the bond and the operation of the building. And this is something that we have not had to do in the past. So
Right.
that's an extra $900,000 out of our general fund that we have to use to pay for the building. But we can't do anything about it. It is done. We have an obligation to take care of it and to make do with what we have. We just won't do that kind of thing again. And it's a frustration, and it's something that we have to deal with every month, but it's just how it is. And that's why it's so important, everybody, that when it comes to an election, that everybody becomes engaged and looks at who is running and listen to what they're saying and make an intelligent decision as to who the best person is to elect. We need to be more careful about who we elect.
Thank you.
I wanted to kind of emphasize, though, that from my historical perspective, the group that we have in now, I truly believe, there's that perception out there that we have corrupt officials
Yes.
and that they're lining their pockets. I don't know where they would line their pockets, but the group that we have now truly care.
too.
We may not agree with their decisions. I do believe they're trying their best. Same with our city council, our commission, and in looking at the county from back what happened, it really, because the family center was closely tied in with the county owned the family center. We got to attend a lot of budget meetings, a lot of things going on, but the county manager back in that time was the one that was corrupt, and he pulled everybody in out of that group of commissioners, and some of them did not, some knew better and some did not. And so I just want you to be very positive and understand that typically the people that are in office really do care, and they really do want to do the best, and they make mistakes. We're all human. We just need to keep talking with them, giving them our expertise. If you have areas of expertise, and share your knowledge with them so that they can make good decisions.
Thank you. That is absolutely right. Confidence is one of the biggest things that those departments right now need. Well, I've only met them for the last three weeks, and we've had meetings and we've had talks and we've looked at it, and they are so wanting to succeed. They are, when I say, can we ask for help? I'd like to ask TRD to come in. There's no hesitant. That's yes, please, we need it. So you're absolutely right. There's nothing funny going on. It's all about management and control. And our commissioners.
I have one comment that I can't keep my mouth shut. I was the chair for the chairman, of the hospital board. So I'm very aware of the history of the hospital. It's dear to my heart. I spend more time in there than most people that as a patient. So the whole history of the hospital, that's a community-owned hospital. It's a unique situation probably nowhere else in America. So the idea of selling it to ourselves again is crazy, okay? Unless we sell it to the hospital corporation, the nonprofit. But we need to spend a lot of time thinking about, we don't need to send it out to RFP, Presbyterian to come in.
Absolutely.
And then become a triage facility.
Absolutely.
So that is a You know, one surgeon brings in about $1 million tax revenue to our community.
Yep.
If we lose that facility to go to a private group, you know, Health First or one of those, we're just gonna be a triage. They're gonna say, go here and then go to Albuquerque. So we need to protect that jewel we have because it's a moneymaker and it's owned by us. It's not owned by the county, okay? It's owned by the people of the community of France and Cibola County.
We will work on it, and we're not going to react to anything.
Yes.
We need to get the facts before we make good decisions.
Right. I was gonna say something about that. I was visiting when my daughter's out of state. And their hospital went from a county to a private hospital, and the fees are outrageous. They can't hardly afford to go in there. You know, our county hospital is reasonable. When you get a private hospital, they raise the things way up, you know? And it's real bad when they do that, because my daughter's telling me it costs us so much just to go into anything.
Yep.
And so we are fortunate to have.
And knowledge is power for everything we do. Every decision, we need to have a right decision. Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering, who determines the wages for the elected officials if they're only working 8 hours?
It's the state. We don't have any control either on that. So the state groups counties with their population and size, and it's a formula they put together.
But they're not the ones paying them, no, we are.
Right, absolutely.
Well, that's wacky.
Yeah, and for every single elected department position, there's a minimum to a maximum. So
we can vote on between that realm. Yeah.
I do agree with Mr. Windhorst about studying your elected officials and elect the correct ones. But going back to where you said lining their pockets, I think a lot of these officials go in because they get paid to be a commissioner. They get paid to be a councilman. In my own opinion, I think if you're going to be a public servant as far as councilman and commissioner, you should get paid at all. And we might be able to get the right kind of people in there, because I think sometimes we get people in there, oh, well, I'm going to make an extra $22,000 a year, or, you know, $12,000 a year, whatever they get paid, you know, council and commissioner. And to me, they get their friends, buddies to vote them in without them actually knowing what they're doing. You know, and I think it's not a paid position. You get people who really care and really have some kind of knowledge to be able to help their own community as far as that. That's my own opinion.
So, I agree real quick. My experience with that is absolutely, but a manager's job also is to help and direct and give the commission the information so they make the right decisions, in a sense, for the best for the county. That's a county manager's job, to help the commissioners. How are they going to know if the county manager doesn't communicate with them? How do they know that?
Is there any kind of, before they could even run for commission or council, some kind of training?
Oh, yes,
they should go
yes.
to that before they
We
run?
have, we have quite a few trainings, and I totally agree. You know, they are worth it. We have BIPO, which is from the NMAC, Association of Counties, and says it's a Better Informed Public Officials Conference, and it goes on for a week. And it's absolutely, it's great. You learn a lot. The commissioners learn a lot, the assessors, everybody has their own affiliates, and you learn from other people, and you get your network going in that sense. So yes, I absolutely agree that.
Yeah, I think some kind of, before they get to run, they should take some kind of.
When they win the election, it happens in January, so.
Yeah, that falls back to state statutes that we can't require that.
Right.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
We have limited time because we have to be out at another commitment soon. But first of all, I have an announcement to make. On the 24th, we will be hosting another forum. Many of these questions and comments that have been made are already being addressed with the questions that will be asked the candidates that are running for political office. And it's going to be at the old county complex. And then the second thing is, and I know that many of you probably are very tired of hearing me say this, but if we want a new or a different community, it's left up to us to make it happen. If we want a beautiful community, then we have to decide that we're going to have a beautiful community. when Sacred Winds came in, their whole purpose is to help our economy by attracting more people into the community as they stop and see these baskets that are being designed. And so people will stop and come into our community because it's not being done probably anywhere else in the world or anywhere else in our state. So we've got our culture that's being promoted, the community that's being promoted, and so therefore that business has stepped up to do that, to bring in more tourists to our community. The third thing that I want to address is Santa Fe Avenue, and pardon me, Robert, but it really bothers me, and I don't know if you can help with this or not. But there are two properties on Santa Fe Avenue. One is, I think it's what is Sundowner Motel that was going to be converted into rental units, storage units. And it's been like that for years. It's a dump. People come in and see that. It's right on our main street. The second thing is the Wayfarer Motel.
Barbara, we are working to demolish the
Wayside.
Wayside Inn. Harry Garcia does own the other hotel that you're talking about, and we're working on those issues. It is in process. The gentleman that owns the Wayside Inn lives in Canton, Ohio. There's a lot of paperwork that goes into. We're working on 4 demolitions right now around the city. The paperwork, we have to get it right because we are taking property and we are mowing it down and cleaning it up, but it's still somebody else's property, so we have to do it correctly so that we have no liability, but it is being worked on.
Well, you know, next door to them, someone is, I don't know if you're a proponent of Delta Tires, but they are doing a phenomenal job on Santa Fe Avenue to make that property look good. And right next door to them are these 15 or 20 vehicles that are stored in that lot, and it's a dump right on our main street.
Well, it all belongs to the same man, and he lives outside of town, and we are working on that right now. We're very close.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I wanted to dovetail on what Barb was saying. 2 months from today, June 5th, is the county election day. And I know personally, because the person told me, that they want to have a town meeting so that anybody who wants to can come and approach them and ask them any question that we want to. It's up to us, as we've been saying, to get out there and make the changes. And that means becoming more active. So if one person has said they're going to have a town meeting, we need to get in the face of all the others and ask them, are you willing to have a town meeting so we can ask any question that we want to ask? Not canned questions that are already set up ahead of time. Again, 2 months. We've got 2 months to go, that maybe we can begin to make the change that the county really could use.
Any other last things?
So, we were talking earlier about the city possibly giving money to the county. Kate,
Yeah.
what is your opinion on that? Should the city give even a fraction of that $150,000 to the county?
I have no opinion on that right now. I honestly, those are, you know, these are ideas that are coming out. This is things people have asked, personal people have asked the city, and my job is to make sure we just do it legally. I don't have if they can, it's going to benefit. If they can't, I completely understand too, because, you know, it's the way it goes. Yes, Mr. Winters.
Last thing I want to say is how grateful I am that we have 2 very good managers for the city of Grant, for Cibola County, the best decision I think this last commission has made was to hire Kate. We had 14 applicants, 12 showed up. It took 12 and a half hours to interview everyone, but we knew right away that she was the one. We just knew. She was the only one that came right up to us and shook hands, looked us in the eye, and the last thing that she said to us, and I will never forget it, I don't think that we can fix this mess. I know we can. And when I heard that, I said, I know this person can do it. We made the right decision. And I have to say that all this bad stuff that has been going around has really hurt our county and has not been helpful. And I'd like to take a chapter from Ronald Reagan and speak in flowing rhetoric and high rhetoric and speak positively about the good things that we have in our area, because I know and I've seen it, all the good that we can do and the great community that we can have. And we've got the leadership in place, we've got the will to do it, we need the support and the help of the community. I love this idea of an advisory board. The more people we get involved, the better.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just grateful for Laura, I'm grateful for Kate, and thankful to the both of you for what you're contributing to our area.
Thank you for those kind words, and I was very grateful that you actually hired me.
I'm glad you're here, but I'd like to say another thing too. This commission we have has nothing to do with the past. This is a whole new commission.
Yes.
Okay, they inherited something. So we need to back up this commission because they inherited it. They had nothing to do with it.
Absolutely.
Okay? So we need to trust them.
Thank you. And you know what? They have been so good. I see them, I speak to them every single day. I either email, text, whatever they like to do, phone. They have been really right there every single time. And that's what we need. We need to have that communication, that working relationship, because we're not going to get anywhere if the commission doesn't have the real tools, i.e. information, to make good decisions to move forward. So thank you. Yes, I agree.
Thank you, Jimmy and Barbara, for taking time to be here to videotape this. Thank you, Kim, for setting this up for us every month. She's here early, making sure the room is warm and the tables are set up, and we really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Time for that.